Well, kind of like we discussed at the end of the game on Saturday. I mean, obviously, there's aspirations to finish first or second in the conference. That loss kind of puts a big dent in that. Now you're going to have to get help. But at the same time, now you got to go back on the road, try to regroup, and try to finish this out as best possible. Kind of knowing now that you need help to get
right
to where you want to.
Right. Four of the last 6 are on the road and in some tough places to play. Louisiana Tech hasn't lost at home yet. FIU just lost their first one at home. And then we got Sam Houston first, and then Liberty to finish up. So and Sam Houston's playing well since we played here. They've won 4 of their last 5 games, and their only loss was to Liberty. And so those teams play a lot better at home. And so that's our challenge, is to make sure that we can, try to continue to play as strongly as we've had, but on other people's home floors. And so right now we're trying to make sure we get everybody healthy and over some illness and get everybody upright and back into practice.
Coach, just want to hear your thoughts on Saturday's game. It was such a hard-fought effort, back and forth the entire time. Just slipped away at the end right there, it seemed. But just what are your takeaways from it?
Yeah, I felt like we had great intensity, great focus. Got off to a good start. Had to fight through some foul trouble to get to halftime. Came out and still battled throughout most of the third quarter. But turnovers really jumped up and grabbed us, and that was what kind of bit us the worst. Was 17 turnovers, just too many. And it wasn't any one person. It was spread across. Everybody had 2 or 3. And when you're getting turnovers, obviously you're not getting shots. And then those lead to easier transition baskets for your opponent. And you can't do that against really good teams. And Middle Tennessee ended up with 17 points off of our turnovers. And so it's really hard to beat somebody on their home floor when you're giving them that many more attempts. And other than that, I felt like the focus was good. We out-rebounded them. They played well. We fought hard on the boards. I thought the defensive effort was good, except for, when you take bad shots or you have turnovers, it's hard to have a good defensive trip on the other end. And that showed up. But, I thought they kept playing. They kept fighting the whole time. We just we needed some better possessions on the offensive end down the stretch to have a shot at that thing. And, we've got to stay out of foul trouble. We can't keep getting in these holes in the first half where we're having to put people on the bench because they're picking up 2 quick fouls, and that hurts us not being able to play at our best for the majority of the game.
I mean, you mentioned foul trouble. Going back and looking at those stats and the numbers there, somebody would have told you before the game, Alexis Meade is going to not score at all.
Right.
Only have 1 shot attempt, and you still have a chance to be in that game. Kind of speaks for maybe that depth we keep talking about this year, that you were able to weather something like that, considering she's been such a vital piece of this program for the last 4 years.
And she had one of her best games the previous game, and just came out and picked up 2 quick fouls and we had to take her out just to try to protect her and have her for the second half. It felt like we had kind of dodged a little bit of that bullet at halftime, but we just never kind of got in that groove of taking care of the ball and executing on offense and then getting defensive stops in the second half. And we kept felt like we were chasing it the whole time. So now we've got to get back, get refocused on Sam Houston. Like I said, they've played really, really well in the last 5 ball games. And so, that's our challenge ahead of us, is to go play well on the road. And Louisiana Tech is always a hard place to play. And you can see that by them being undefeated at home during conference play. And so we've got 2 really challenging road games ahead, and we've got to finish this road trip and get back here and play our pink game and our senior night game.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the road. Not that there's any easy road trips. I mean, maybe driving the middle, but this one's Texas. Then
right.
You go over to Ruston, where there's no real easy way to get, and then that other road trip, you've got Liberty and Miami in the same. I mean, travel, it's doing you no favors. It's done none of the conference teams.
I guess it's called Conference USA for a reason, huh? So we cover the whole United States. But everybody has to make those trips. And so we can't use that. That's not an excuse. We can't use that as a crutch. Just like, Sam Houston and Louisiana Tech had to come here. and they had to make the same trip that we have to make. And so it's just at different times. And right now we're closing out our season with these road trips. And, you can look at it as a challenge, and it helps to prepare you for the conference tournament. And so we just got to get everybody healthy, get everybody focused on Sam Houston, and I think they are. We had a good practice yesterday, and then get down there and really try to play our best basketball.
You said get everybody healthy a couple times now. I know that just talking with Coach Poloni, they was talking about they're battling through some illness and stuff. Are you guys kind of going through a little bit of that too right now?
Yeah, people in your office, and it's going through everybody. And so, yeah, we've got, a little bit of this stomach thing and this little bit of this. It's that time of year. And so you try to manage the rest and recovery, and that's part of it, is trying to get them to feeling as well as they can feel. Sometimes this time of the year, it's not as much about getting a whole lot more reps on the court as just getting your body ready to play. And so that's really what we're trying to get done and accomplished right now.
Can you kind of talk about the, next man up mentality? Obviously, Josie had 28 against Kennesaw State, Alexis had 29, and then Sophia had 20.
20, right.
Can you kind of just talk about how anyone is able to score at any game?
Well, really, it speaks to all their work off the court, like in practice and individuals, and so they continue to try to reach certain goals that we have each week with shooting, and so and that gives them the confidence that and the matchups change. The way Middle Tennessee was playing Zophie, they left her open at the three-point line a lot, and so she's got to have that confidence, and she's very capable. Obviously, she went 6 for 11, I believe, from the three-point line, and Mary Amaso came in and was 1 for 2. And they're both really good three-point shooters. But Sam Houston will guard us differently, and Louisiana Tech will guard us differently. And so that's where you've just got to find the right matchup on that given night. And ironically, Josie had a great night, came back the next game and got in foul trouble. Alexis had a great night, came back the next game and come in foul trouble. So I'm hoping Zoe doesn't get in foul trouble down at Sam Houston. But we've got a pattern going right now. We just need to learn how to play defense with our hands back and get that box out. A lot of Zophie's fouls at Middle Tennessee came off of rebounds. Giving up an offensive rebound and then fouling on a second shot. And so we've got to keep working at playing defense without fouling and rebounding that first defensive rebound.
What do you think's made Sam Houston a different team than maybe the one that we saw here at Biddle?
Well, I think we shot the ball well that night, and we took care of the ball fairly well that night as well. They're one of the best teams, maybe the best team in our conference at forcing turnovers and getting steals. We take a lot of pride in being able to do those things. They're really good at that as well. They're a great offensive rebounding team. They put a lot of defensive pressure on you. We handled that well here. It'll be different on their home floor, but I think that's how they've been successful. They've been able to generate a lot of offense from their defense, and so we can't have 17 turnovers like we did at Middle Tennessee, and so we've got to take care of the ball, and we've got to get back to making sure that we move the ball and look for good uncontested shots that directly impacts our field goal percentage, and so that makes us a tougher team to guard. Like you said, that then you don't know, is Josie going to knock it down, or is Alexis going to knock it down, or is Zophie going to knock it down, or is Casey Hayes going to knock it down? Or we got a lot of other players that can score as well, and so, but we've got to stick to that ball movement, make sure that ball doesn't stick.
One thing that seemed to be consistent recently, though, is the defense. I mean, even middle, like you said, obviously 17 points off turnovers kind of skews that the defensive point totals a little bit, but even there, you're really good defensively. It seems like that's something that this team has really kind of hung their hats on for most of this conference play.
For most of it. I think the defensive breakdowns that we've had have been either defensive rebounding or we've fouled, and we put the other team at the free throw line too much. And you can't play defense at the free throw line. And so we've got players that have. Josie's a good example because she has continued to. That's maybe only the second game this year where we've had to set her down for foul trouble. Well, there might have only been 2 games in the past where she didn't sit down for foul trouble. And so she's a good example of a young lady that's continued to improve and grow in a lot of areas that may not show up on the stat sheet, but now other areas are able to show up because she's able to stay on the floor longer. And so we take a lot of pride in being strong defensively, being able to generate extra possessions, narrowing that rebounding margin a little bit. And so we've just got to continue to do that. And it'll be a challenge, like I said, on somebody else's home floor.
Speaking of that defense, against hosting La Tech last time, you guys led them the entire matchup and really did a great job holding off whenever they'd try to come back on those runs. So how do you kind of put up the same effort when you're on the road?
It's about consistency, and that's what we're trying to get to, is being consistent and not just consistent in scoring, but consistent in taking care of the ball and consistent in playing defense the way that we want to play it, and making sure that those shots are difficult. And part of that is making sure we don't give multiple offensive rebounds, and we're not giving them multiple attempts and paint touches. We don't want that ball to get in that paint a whole lot, and those usually lead to either easy shots or fouls. And so we keep working on that every day. We worked on it yesterday. It's already on the practice schedule to work on it again today, and so we'll make sure that we keep working at that.
Whenever it comes to kind of just going back to it with foul trouble, I mean, there for a while we really saw a spark in Zophie whenever y'all were on the road in the first half, and then she kind of had a swing there where there was multiple games in a row that you'd see her on the bench because why? She has 2 early fouls. And then recently you've seen Josie get a little bit of foul trouble, and then Alexis obviously on Saturday. But have you given them any type of incentive? Obviously you want them to go after the ball, you want them to get at it early, but also at the same time they grab those 2 early fouls, having to sit on the bench. Coming into the second half, they're a little cold trying to come off the bench and play again.
Yeah, and it's all about, we tend to get our hands in places that we need to keep our hands back and play more with our head and our feet. And in their defense, I've had to take more timeouts to talk to referees than ever before. And what I've discussed is, we had a game here where we're 2 minutes from halftime and not a foul has been called on the opponent, and they're not playing zone defense. And we had a foul differential as well. And so, on the road just this past Saturday in the first half, and it's not that the officials are doing they're just seeing the game differently on both ends of the floor. And maybe if one team was playing a zone defense, but both teams are playing man defense. Both teams are being aggressive. And so for whatever reason, we've been on the other end of that. We can't control that. What we can control is playing defense with our hands back and really being early where we need to be on the defensive rotations or positioning, and making sure that we're not trying to play catch up. Sometimes when you're trying to react or catch up, that's what puts you in a spot where you're vulnerable to that foul call. And so if you're there early, usually you're in a good spot. And we've got to do that work early again. We can't control what the referees do and don't see, or do and don't call. What we can control is our effort.
Can you kind of just talk about why it's so hard to play on the road here in Conference USA? Looking at the standings, UTEP the only team that's at 500, every other team above 500 at home. Can you kind of just talk about why it's so difficult?
Yeah, I don't think that's unique to our conference. I think that's pretty consistent with pretty much all sports. But usually a team shoots a little bit better at home. You get to sleep in your bed when you're at home. You get a little bit better rest when you're at home. You're not traveling. You're not trying to figure out a snowstorm. You're not trying to figure out travel. You don't get stuck in the airport. You're not on a bus. There's a lot of other challenges that come along with. That's why we always talk about trying to make sure we get our rest and our routine and try to stick to that as much as we can. But that still is a challenge. And if we can, if we could sleep in our bed and just show up and play in the arena, maybe that difference might be neutralized a little bit, but we won't. And so we have to, plus you're eating in a different place, you're eating different foods, and so sometimes it's hard to keep that same rest and that same routine when you're traveling. And so this won't be any different. We've got weather predicted to come in again, and so we'll have to be ready to be to adapt to that if we have to. But I know the players are. We've had a good practice yesterday. I know they're looking forward to get back on the floor and play better than we ended the game at Middle Tennessee. And so those are the things that most important, is making sure that they're locked in and ready to go. would you rather play all your games in Dill Arena? I guarantee you would rather play all our games in Dill Arena. But we haven't gotten the conference to schedule them that way yet, so we'll still have to go on the road.
When you guys have all these games on the road like this, we talked about routine throughout the whole year. Is there anything when you're on the road, it's kind of like you add to your routine to just maybe something that's traditional on the road, or a certain pre-game meal or a pre-game meet, just something, I don't know, something that's kind of fun to you guys on the road that helps?
We go get ice cream sometimes. And usually after, if we have a good win and we have time, again, that still depends sometimes on travel, practice time slots. We don't always get the most favorable practice time slots on the road, and so, but whenever we can, we'll try to sneak out and get some ice cream, and we'll do different things in practice. We've played knockout against the coaches, and so we'll do different things just to try to make that a little bit more, because you spend a lot of time in an airport, on a bus, eating out of a to-go box. You get up at 3 a.m. sometimes to catch a flight, and so there's all those things, and you just try to find ways to make it a little bit more enjoyable, to try to find something that might perk everybody up. When we were stuck in the hotel during the weather when we went to Kennesaw State, we literally walked across the parking lot and ate dinner in Ruby Tuesdays. We were so thankful that they were able to come in and willing to come in and work. We didn't have to, but we just needed a change of venue. We just needed to be in the hotel for 24 more hours. And so we'll do things that fit within our schedule, that the girls like to do, just to try to make it enjoyable and try to keep the energy up.
Can you kind of talk about, obviously going back to the Middle Tennessee game, Sophie had 20 points and one of her best performances in conference this season. Can you kind of just talk about how you've seen her grow, especially not being able to maybe score as much as she would like and just having 20 points? Can you just talk about her?
Well, she's a good shooter, and she's a very skilled offensive player. We're continuing to work on some other areas of her offense, and she's a pretty good decision maker when it comes to shooting. The part of the Zophie's game that I'm the most proud of her growth is on the defensive side. She's really continued to grow and learn. I thought she did a really good job against, probably arguably the best post player in our conference, and one of the better ones that we've seen in our conference in a while. And she did a good job making catches difficult, and she's given up 4 to 6 inches, whatever, against her. And so, but Zoe's continued to work on her defensive footwork, her defensive readiness, and that part, and not just Zoe. So is Callie Rose, and so is Mariama, and all those players that help us in that area. And we get a lot of help from, Destiny helps, and Maya Pratcher helps, and we get a lot of help from players in that area as well. But I think Zoe's continued to take pride in improving her defense, and I'm really proud of her effort and her attention in that area.
Anything else?
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.